talk milestones in the pension industry. Subsidiary of Access Corporation, Access Pensions Ltd, has exceeded 1 trillion naira assets under management, makes them the 4th largest PFA, that's pension fund administrator, by assets under management. And we're going to be talking about that with the managing director and CEO of Access Pensions. Also, another development, the PENCOM, the National Pension Commission. Well, they're saying that they want PFAs to open up branches in at least minimum of two states in each of the GOP zone is geopolitical zone. I shortened that for space. And then open a branch in any states with at least 10,000 RSAs, that's retirement savings accounts. Are these practical? Joining us live from our Abuja studio, Mr. Dave Uduanu. He's the Managing Director, CEO of Access Pensions Limited. Good morning, sir. It's great to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations. You crossed the 1 trillion naira in assets under management. How did you get there, sir? Tell us how you got there.
Good morning, Rotus, and thank you for having me. As you know, Access Corporation acquired First Guarantee Pensions and subsequently Sigma Pensions and merged the two companies to create Access Pensions. I was given a mandate to develop a 5-year plan that will take us to a top 2 player in the industry by 2027. So we went to work, and that strategy is premised on certain elements. The key is, first of all, is flawless execution and integration of the acquired entities to forge one unified entity and a strong brand. The other components are around people, technology, and processes. So we had to revamp our processes, we had to focus and invest in technology and digital offerings. And also we had to strengthen our people in various areas. The last part of it was working with our parent company, Access Corporation, in a very systematic way to reach sectors that are excluded, like the informal sector, the state government, and also to focus on the large corporate accounts. I think that in the last 7 months before we reached this milestone, we had worked very hard to ensure that we get there on time. So I want to thank all our customers, over 1 million, who have entrusted us with the confidence to manage our pension funds, and our staff, our management, and our board. And I also want to thank our parent company, Access Corporation, led by our chairman, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, for the hard work we put in to achieve milestone. But we're just beginning. It's just a beginning. Like I said, our strategy and our objective is to be a top 2 player in the pension industry by 2027. And the emphasis is on top 2, not number 2. So in other words, our strategy is to be either number 1 or 2 over the next 5 years. And we're very deliberate, about reaching those milestones.
All right. So in that regard, would you be looking at more acquisitions in the future to get you to that further target by top 2 by 2027? Would more acquisitions in the pension space be part of that plan?
Well, what I would say is that at the moment, what we are doing is, focusing on organic strategy, which is basically working with stakeholders, with customers to grow the business. But we look at things on a case-by-case basis. We are open. We're looking at all the opportunities in the market. We'll look at places where we can work with partners to do a deal if it's possible. And the way we define a good deal is where we have partners, we have complementary customer base. We can work with people who can do a deal quickly, and we can create a unified board. So I would say yes, we are open. But at the moment, our focus is on working on our organic growth engine to reach our target milestone.
Okay, great. Now, if we take a wider look at the pension space in Nigeria, should we have more mergers? I mean, some draw a link between pensions and insurance, in which I guess the term fragmented sometimes is used to describe it, and saying you need more consolidation across the marketplace. Would you say that is the case for the pension landscape in Nigeria?
Yeah, so Rotu, that's a very good question. And I'll start with the industry structure and also the fact that pension is a larger set of the asset management industry. And asset management globally is a game of scale. You know, there are significant scale economics to be harvested by big players. You know, because big players are able to operate at a lower cost base. They're also able to afford the talent and investment management systems required to deliver competitive returns. And if you go to many countries, they've gone through this series of M&A to reach where they were. So if you take the case of Mexico and Chile, where in a sense we borrowed the scheme from, the top 5 players account for 90% of industry assets, and they started with about 25 players. In Nigeria, the top 5 players account for 60% of industry assets. So you could see that we still have a crowded field. We have about 18 players, and the industry, you're right to say, is fragmented. But also the point is that if you look at if you then dive into industry economics and the structure of the industry, you find that there's only one big PFA in Nigeria in many ways, you know. So the number 1 player in the industry accounts for 33% of industry assets, while the next player accounts for just 8%. And if you put together the next 5 players in the industry, you don't even get to the size of number 1. That makes a perfect case for M&A activities. And it's not just Access Pension. I think that the whole industry, everybody is looking at the opportunities for growth. We have a large informal sector that remains untapped, but this untapped opportunity requires resources and assets to go after. So the answer in my mind is that yes, I think the pension industry requires more M&A activities to create large PFA. If I hazard a guess, at 16 trillion of assets, you probably will need about 5 players with AUM average of between 2 and 3 assets under management to create a competitive playing field and a basis for competition that allows, you know, the top 5 players to compete and deliver good service to customers. Today, we don't have that because the number 1 player is much larger than everybody, and that skews the competitive field in their favor. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. And taking from your answer there, you mentioned 2 key things there. Scaling, it's a game of scale. You also mentioned, you know, a large informal sector and going after them. So this directive from PENCOM wanting more physical PFA branches across Nigeria. I have to tell you, sir, I physically have never I've never even seen my PFA. I just get alerts on my phone as to what has been credited to my account or what my balance is. I have never in my professional life of working ever stepped into a pension fund administrator office. So is this practical from the regulator to open up new branches across the geopolitical zones?
So, Rotu, this is not a new requirement. It's always been there. PENCOM had always, you know, asked PFAs to open a branch in every state where they have about 10,000 RSA holders, and every state that started the scheme. Remember that this is a compulsory savings scheme. So I think that PENCOM is right. Even though savvy players like you operate on your mobile phones and smart devices, not everybody have this opportunity and this privilege. We have a lot of blue-collar workers who don't have functional email addresses and certainly not smartphones. They troop into our offices every day to access, to look for one service or the other. So we at Access Pension, we are represented in all the 36 states. And I think, you know, any of the top, I would say 10 players or even most of the PFAs have branches. I think what PENCOM have tried to do is to say, beyond the branches, you also have to have a spread across the geopolitical zone. And it makes sense, you know. It's a national scheme, you know, we're a country of many parts. You know, so it's not just an elitist scheme for people in Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. It should be for everybody, and I support it. What I think that they also did, which we feel is a bit of a moderation, is that you can set up service centers in banks, you know, for bank-owned PFAs like ourselves and about 4 or 5 other PFAs. We can set up service desks in our bank branches, and this moderates the requirement for this. But in many ways, what PENCOM have done also makes the case for larger PFAs, because obviously you need capital, you need resources to open this branch. And you need to employ people and do technology, and the technology cost is not cheap. You have to invest in, you know, computer systems, you have to invest in networks, integrated networks, and all of that. So I would say yes, PENCOM is right in this regard, and I'm sure that most PFAs will comply with this requirement.
Okay, I
So
want to
maybe
get
next
your...
time you can step into your PFA.
I hope you're not calling me an elite. I'm a humble guy.
I will advise you to, yeah. No, you're one of the elite.
All right, really quick, sir. Just a minute ago, I want to get your thoughts on the NGX looking at wanting to get, they're considering dollar-denominated securities. Would that maybe prompt PFAs like yourself to maybe talk to PENCOM about reevaluating your asset allocations, for risk-based adjustments and so on? What do you make of that development? Really quickly, about a minute to go before we wrap up.
It's a positive development. We support it. However, the first things to do is to remove the restriction on the CBN list that prohibits us from investing in foreign investments, and also to make the guideline and make FX available to PFA. I think it's about time we start investing in dollar-denominated securities. I don't know the specific plans the NGX have, but we support it, and we want to achieve currency diversification as much as possible and in the shortest period of time. So we're happy to work with all the players and anybody that can make that happen.
Mr. Uduanu, we've run out of time. I had so many other questions for you. We'll have to have you back on the show. Again, congratulations on the milestone, crossing $1 trillion in assets under management. We appreciate your time coming to talk to us on Arise News Global Business Report. Mr. Uduanu, MD, CEO, Access Pensions. All right.